Africa does rank top when it comes to travel destinations. And many times when people travel to different parts of Africa, they will say, oh my God, this was one of the most luxurious safaris I ever heard. This is a memorable experience, very exotic, very unique. And one of the key things that makes this experience very unique and very different from any other travels many people have done, especially international tourists, they really appreciate the culture.
We just made it at the Sands at Chalet Island in Diani, Kenya. And I'll keep it for myself. We'll show you guys. And the thing that I love about living in Kenya is that 2.5 hours ago, we were in Nairobi. It was rainy, it was coldish, not very nice, in a big city, chaotic. And look at us now.
To be honest, I'm a little speechless right now because to stay where we're staying, which you will see in 2 seconds, this has been a dream of mine, and I didn't know you could do it here in Kenya.
Yeah.
And we came across it by fluke, and I was like, no, this is it. We have to go here. We just have to. There's no way.
You guys will see in a few minutes, but we're basically in the Maldives.
Welcome to our overwater villa. Come see this.
Now, as we talk about culture, let me show you some of these travel destinations and the architecture that you see, and tell me what you guys are noticing even as you see these pictures. The question I do want to ask is, at what point did African architecture become exotic for international tourists? But also, at what point did African architecture, something like this, become primitive, especially when we now pivot that conversation to normal housing and when we talk about exquisite architectural designs, especially in relation to African indigenous architecture. I do want to address the gap here because many people, especially these international tourists from the Western countries, when they come here, when they come to the motherland and they see this and they see these beautiful resorts that are really centered and grounded in culture. And some of these resorts have been built by the locals, but the owners are not locals. And the people who actually benefit, from these resorts, many times they are people still back in the Western countries. So you see the difference here when they are talking about, oh, come and stay in this resort. It's unique, it's exotic, it offers a different experience. It offers you the tranquility of being one with nature. They appreciate all these things and they admit that this is the uniqueness of the architecture and what even the setup. The setup is set up like a village, like a typical African village, in not in the city, in the village areas, because you can see the houses are clustered together. It brings that sense of community, the vibes of sharing your environment with someone else. But now, when it comes to ordinary housing, when it comes to day in, day out, normal housing, we have been made to believe that this is not the way to live, that this is primitive, that this is not fashionable, that this has been passed with time. So before I go and lay blame on anyone else, I just want us to ask ourselves as Africans, why did we accept, this narrative that it is okay for us to let our exquisite, exotic, beautiful, outstanding, unique culture and African architecture to be enjoyed only by those people who do not even belong to this culture? And why did we allow ourselves, and why do we continue to allow ourselves to not go back to the roots and to teach ourselves how to rebuild these houses? Why do we abandon this? Is it this conditioning that we currently go through in schools, where the schools do not even incorporate indigenous African architecture, and we are taught to build these sterile buildings that, we really don't even have connection to them? And they have ended up contributing heavily to negative effects to the environment, and we are suffering through that. Why is it that we have accepted this narrative? And why is it that those people, quote unquote, who have been educated, who have gone to school, who have been architects, why is it that we look down on indigenous architecture, but we only embrace it when we want to build a resort, for instance? This can't be the way that we live. This is a beautiful way to live. We're able to connect to our heritage, to our culture, but also we're able to build a unique environment for ourselves that also aligns with nature, that aligns with us being sustainable and us respecting the environment and us actually, enjoying what is ours.